Hello and welcome back to the Shakeout Podcast. I'm your host, John Gay. This week, we're excited to welcome to the show Brian Beckstead, co-founder of pioneering running shoe company Altra. Brian joins Canadian running staff writer Marley Dickinson for a conversation about his journey in the sport, recapping how his years-long struggle with recurring injuries and decade-plus experience in the run specialty retail world combined to form the kernel of Altra's innovative approach to shoe design, in the form of their signature low-drop shoes that help athletes of all abilities run faster, further, and more naturally by using their feet the way nature intended. It's evident throughout the conversation that Brian is a real runner's runner, and his experience as an athlete himself along the journey of forming Altra is one that anyone who's ever experienced that runner's high will relate to. So without further ado, settle in and enjoy this special episode of the Shakeout Podcast.
Today on the Canadian Running Shakeout Podcast, we are joined by a very special guest, Brian Beckstead, the co-founder of Altra. You've been a lifelong runner, and you found yourself after university getting into entrepreneurship, and you co-founded one of the coolest companies out there. And we're excited to kind of share your story today. If you're unfamiliar with Altra, they revolutionized the running shoe market by creating the zero-drop shoes, and was the first of its kind sort of doing so, and have come out with the foot-shaped toe box, Embrace the Space. If you haven't seen it, it's great, especially if you got wide feet. They make a running shoe for every runner. Brian, welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah, great to be here.
First off, what's your impression of Canada so far? I know you've been here for about a week or so. I saw you in Montreal before you joined us. Did you try Poutine?
I'm a big Poutine fan. Our local bar and restaurant in my hometown has Poutine. It's way better up here, by the way. So, but yeah, I get to come to Canada every few years, and I love it. I love it up here.
Now you're in Toronto. What's your sort of initial impression of this city?
It seems like it's getting bigger. I'm here every few years, and it's getting bigger and bigger. But I love it. I think it's just this amazing, diverse food, great food, by the way, and just lots of options. So I love it.
You've been here a few times now. I feel like since the pandemic in Canada, especially on our end, we've really seen the running community grow. Are you noticing sort of the same thing on the brand side with Ultras, just seeing more Canadians wearing the running shoe?
Yeah, well, we love. First of all, I mean, running's booming in a lot of places, and I get to brag about this. This is a fun fact. Over the last year, Canada is our fastest growing country in the entire world for Ultra. So we are seeing lots of people embrace Ultra, and that, like you said, embrace that space, that toe box. Obviously, our zero to low drop products, and so we're seeing it. It's awesome. We love it.
Is there a way that, like, you guys are, like you said, Canada's the fastest growing market? Is there a way that you guys are putting more effort into, okay, if something's growing, let's keep pushing money or sponsorships or races in those areas?
Yeah, I mean, we've just hired 4 new full-time employees for Canada for Ultra, both in terms of the FSR, the tech reps, right, out in the field. We have a new sales and marketing coordinator. So we're growing, we're expanding. I'm here. I was here last year. I'm here this year. We're definitely putting emphasis here because it's an awesome market. It's growing. We're seeing a huge boon in running, and we want them in Ultras because we think our shoes are pretty awesome.
All jokes aside, is it a fact or fiction that you have the widest feet of all major shoe brand founders?
Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't think so. I don't have a particularly wide foot. I have a bit of a high instep, and so I do like that width. And so for us, we're not about wide feet or not wide feet. We're just about letting those toes splay, right? If your big toe can engage, for us, that is arch support, right? So it's not necessarily just about width. It's also about how do we let your body move naturally? How do we engage those awesome muscles that are already there in your foot, and to be able to attenuate shock and balance and so forth. And so for us, I doubt it. I don't have a particularly wide foot, so probably not.
I did read somewhere that the whole foot shape toe box actually came from sort of the amount of stress fractures that you might have had in university.
I did have a bunch of stress fractures trying to run collegiately, and so everyone says, did you run collegiately? And I can say, yes. I mean, I had multiple stress fractures in back-to-back years. It kind of just ended my my college career. But what's also fun is what I discovered in terms of getting healthy was trail running. And so you've obviously seen a big emphasis on trail from Altra, even though our first shoe was a road shoe. But I fell in love with trail running in terms of getting healthy and finding that balance. And so there's a lot of inspiration from those injuries and from the challenges in life. So we've applied it to Altra. We've made it work.
Yeah. What's it like? I mean, I imagine, going to university out of high school, you're so excited. You're like, oh, I can't wait to compete in the NCAA and be at that collegiate level. But going through these injuries, like you probably thought at the moment, like it's the end of the world.
Oh yeah.
But now as an adult and an entrepreneur and a founder of a big shoe brand company, do you look back on this and be like, thank God I learned there?
Yeah. Every setback is an opportunity, right? A place to learn. And I think that is, entrepreneurs talk about that a lot, right? I think that's what makes us entrepreneurs, is that we see what's missing and we're able to overcome whatever hurdle. And so for me, those injuries, I was born and raised with scoliosis, so it's severe curvature of the spine. It's fairly noticeable if you look at pictures of me. But I think that scoliosis has empowered me to look at running and footwear from an alignment standpoint and how the human body works and so forth. And I think you're able to apply all of that to brands, for me, Altra, but other aspects of life.
Rewinding a little bit, going towards when the company was founded, was the zero drop something that you guys just thought was missing? Is that what made Altra?
Yeah, I think that was kind of our primary, but we'd been relacing our shoes for almost 10 years. We came from a running store, a specialty running store, and we'd been. I was the buyer for footwear for years prior to leading up to Altra and looking at the other brands. And we just thought that the industry itself was stale. There was 7 running brands in the industry, and that's it. Nobody had broken through in over 20 plus years in the running industry, and they were all the same. And I think that, obviously there was that rise of the minimalism. There were some other major brands like On and Hoka that have come out. I think people just wanted something different. And our difference, what we were able to bring to the market, was that toe box, and then of course that zero to low drop. Because at the time, every an absolutism, every running brand, the heel was twice as high as the forefoot in the midsole, right? Every brand was 12 to 14 millimeters of drop. There was no such thing as drop.
And
so as much as we talk about zero drop, we really brought the concept of drop to the industry. And now we're seeing how many of those brands that have lowered their heel heights, right? And so we love that not only did we create Altra, we also changed the entire industry.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like if you look, 2 decades ago, it was all about how minimal or how light can you make your shoe. I remember it was like an Adidas featherweight Adios or something like that. And this thing was like, I don't know, like 200, like less than 200 grams. You know what I mean? The shoe had nothing to it. But it was all that brands were competing for back in the days, how we can make the most light and minimal shoe. And the way that the industry has gone today is kind of the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
Where, now, like you said, Hoka emerged into the market, Altra's emerged into the market, and have created, high stack, low drop shoes that can keep you running faster, further, and longer.
That's exactly right. Well, and the pendulum swings all over the place. I mean, even before that, the ultralight stuff, it was motion control and pronation and arch support, right? And so we've seen the pendulum swing back and forth, but ultimately what's great about it is whether the brands go to maximal or minimal or whatever, Ultras still work. You can still run in a low cushion Altra, right, with that zero to low drop and that toe space, and you can do it in a maximum cushion shoe. Our concept works regardless of where the pendulum swings.
Yeah. How does Altra kind of deal with change? Because I mean, like you said before, it's when the brand was founded, the running shoe industry is a lot different than it is now, right? And I mean, even in the past 5 years, we're seeing so much to do with carbon, so much to do with AirPods and sort of whatever gizmos you can add into your running shoe. How does Altra deal with change, and what are maybe some cool prototypes that are coming up?
Yeah, we're always wanting to add something new and different to the product, right? As long as our core concepts are there. We've added drop to our shoes, recognizing that some people don't have that ankle mobility and want a little bit different of an experience in their products. And so we're able to complement our existing products that way. We're launching a shoe here right now, actually this month, called the Olympus 275, which has got a matrix upper. It's a lightweight, more performance trail shoe than the regular Olympus. We're looking at midsole compounds, our new Flow 2 has this Ego P35. I think there's a foam war going on right now. All the brands, they got rid of back when we started Altra, it was, well, my air is better than your gel, and your gel is better than your wave, and it was all just arguing over the hill cushioning technology, right? Well, now those are kind of gone bypassed because the foams have gotten so good, and Ultra's having to keep up with that. From our super foams, we have a carbon plated trail shoe and road shoe. We're always trying to keep up with that, and it's hard. It's not easy, particularly as kind of a smaller, alternative, unique type of brand like Ultra. But we have a whole team to do that. Back in the day, there was 3 of us, right? There was 3 of us in a basement. Now we have a full-time biomechanist. We have an advanced concepts employee that's what their job is, and so it's kind of fun as we've gotten larger to be able to spend that time and energy trying to always push the limits and keep up with the competition.
Talking about pushing limits there, I mean, one of the biggest things is that the brand's done in the past couple of years is create that experience 4 millimeter drop line.
Yeah.
What kind of went into that? And could you tell us a little bit about the initial conversations that was like, okay, we're going to come out with something that we've never done before, and we're not sure how it's going to go, but yeah, it's been a massive success for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've looked at this from almost day one. Really, this is something that has been talked about for a long, long time because with that lower drop, right, it takes the pressure off of the knees. Yay! But it adds it to a calf, right? And so a lot of people do get a little bit of lower calf soreness in our shoes initially. Now, calves is a muscle, so it can get stronger. So most of the time, that goes away within a week or two, and cushioning helps that, right? So. But we recognized that some people, it became nervous. They were nervous about zero drop, right? They were, or they wanted just a little bit different feel underneath foot. And so we actually had transition insoles that we were almost launched 10 years ago in 2015 that had a 9 mil drop, and then they had a little heel wedge that you could pull off to go to 6 mil and a 3 mil. So we looked at these transition insoles. We started talking pretty heavily about adding a drop shoe back in about 2018. We then went through an acquisition in late 2018, early 2019. We then moved the brand from Utah to Colorado, and then COVID happened. And so all of those that dropped shoe got pushed and pushed and pushed. And we looked at it. That's why we named it the Experience line, because we wanted it not just to be an Ultra with 4 mil drop. We wanted it to have a different feel, a different flow to it. And so there's going to be a little bit more rocker to it. You've got the drop, and it's very complementary to what we're already doing. Obviously, the toe box has been from day one of our main calling cards, and so it still has that unique fit where you're able to engage that big toe and let those toes splay. But we talked about it heavily. We debated it. We argued it. We prototyped it. We took our time. And I think we did it right, and I'm really proud of it. I mean, I really enjoyed running in the Flow and then the Wild, our trail version. So it's something that we spent some time and energy on it.
When did conversations kind of start about that? Was it because the line came out in about 2022 was the first one?
2023. So it came out 2 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah. So when did conversations kind of start that, okay, we are wanting to create this experience line?
Literally 2018.
Wow.
I mean, and like I said, it got pushed a year, and then it got pushed a year, and then it got pushed a year. And then once it gets pushed, then it takes 2 years to get to market once you're like, hey, we're actually going to do this. Let's kick off the design process. It's a 2-year process. From the time you say, hey, I'm going to design Lone Peak 10, right? We're on Lone Peak 9 right now. It takes us 2 years to get to market on that product. And so that's where, okay, 2021, we're actually going to do it. We're going to invest the capital. Let's make this happen. And then, of course, we launched it in late spring, early summer of 2023.
Experience on has been a massive success. Did you guys expect it to take off?
We knew. This is something that people have been requesting from day one with Ultra. This is not something that, hey, I like the lower drop, but I just can't quite do zero drop. Whether that's their low ankle mobility or whether that's just kind of like a nervous about transition, or they had an Achilles injury, which there's very few of those in Ultras. Let's be clear. That's kind of a misnomer statistically. But we've been talking about it for a long, long time. And we're proud of the way it came together.
What's one thing I've always been interested in is seeing what other brands are doing. I mean, I feel like that's part of the games. It's like, okay, it's like the NBA or the NHL, like where you're just like, oh well, if the Houston Rockets went out and got Kevin Durant, what's our team going to do? What was your sort of initial impression on sort of like the carbon plated shoes?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've learned not to react quickly to when things happen. So initially there was a lot of like, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And now all of a sudden you're going like, man, injury rates are skyrocketing for people who use them. And so what's the balance? And I think Altra has really spent our time. We were not the first, but I think we've really stepped up our carbon game. We've looked at it from, we wanted a little bit more of a flexible carbon because I think that tells our story. But we also recognize that it's not just about carbon. People say, oh, it's the carbon shoe. No, it's the interaction between the carbon and the foam. And how do you make that interaction happen? So we have an awesome super foam, right? Nitrogen fused, all the bells and whistles on it. And that interaction with the carbon and the foam is the story behind carbon. And so we watched, we learned, we took our time, we did a lot of research in terms of how can we make this an ultra way. And I think that's what we've done with the Vanish Carbon. And now, of course, we have the Mont Blanc Carbon too, our trail carbon too. But you have to just kind of watch. You can't react. I had so many people laugh in my face over Ultra in those early years, right? And a lot of them kind of had to eat their words. So when I watch the industry, I'm always curious. I try not to judge. And I just watch what happens. And I think carbon's kind of found itself in a better place, right? I don't think it's quite as hyped up as it was, which I think is healthy, where we look at it as this is an awesome way to get a little bit faster for certain individuals. And it should be used, but should be used carefully like anything else. For sure.
And I think, like you touched on there, it's the story isn't the carbon, it's how it interacts with the foam.
Yeah.
And I mean, when carbon came out, there were brands that initially hopped onto it super quick and created products that just weren't up to par with what was being developed.
They weren't even that good.
Which kind of almost helped the company that came out with them, right?
Yeah.
But, I had the ability to try out the Mont Blanc Carbon at a trail race a few weeks ago, and it's so snappy. It's the way it interacts with the foam and the response you get with it. One of the best I've tried. It's great. You kind of touched on it before, but I'm not sure if this might be your answer. What's one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about the brand?
Yeah, I definitely the biggest is, I can't do zero drop. Like there's this fear over that term that I think is not quite accurate. I think people think of zero drop as like a barefoot shoe. And, we've always been the same 4-foot cushion as other brands. In fact, in a lot of situations, you'll look that not only did we take out the elevated heel, we actually raised the 4-foot. We have a pretty high stack height on the 4-foot compared to other brands. And so cushioning affects the way zero drop interacts, right? And so if you are nervous about a zero drop shoe, you might want to go to a higher stack Ultra, right? You can still do a zero drop in higher cushion, and you're not going to have that calf soreness that you would in maybe one of our lower profile minimal shoes. And you're definitely not going to have the same transition time as a proper barefoot shoe, like a Vibram 5-Finger or some of the other brands that are out there. Like these are totally different worlds. Zero drop is a flat concept, but the way it interacts with cushioning, I think, is the biggest misconception about Ultra. Oh, zero drop's going to blow my Achilles. I mean, look at the research here. That happens so rarely and yet people are scared of it, and yet the statistics don't support that. And so that's something that we've had to work at. And I think once people try it, they know it works. And Ultra has the highest repurchase rate of any brand in the running industry. If you buy an Ultra, your chance of buying an Ultra is higher than if you bought a Nike or a Hoka or an Adidas or an ASICS, right? Like the repurchase rate. So we know that once we get people into Ultras, once they try it and figure out, they find out that it works, and they're going to repurchase us. And that's where we're trying to really push here, where it's like, I know you're a little nervous about it, but try it because it works.
Yeah. Would you say that's sort of like, again, sort of the target? Is it just the target audience for Ultra now is just brand awareness? Like
absolutely, 100%. Yep,
Like
we are brand awareness focused right now. We're doing some great marketing campaigns. We finally scaled up the business to large enough where we're able to really make a big push right now, and we're seeing that growth. We're not just seeing that growth in Canada; we're seeing it all over the world. We're not just a brand from the Rocky Mountains anymore. We're a global brand, and I've always known that was going to be the case. I knew that we were never going to be this niche little brand. I always felt that we had the potential of being one of those top running brands in the world, and we're on our way to being there.
This might be a fun question, but what's the most unique place you've seen someone wearing Ultra?
I don't know. That's always hard. I get to travel a lot. I will say one of the funnest ones was my wife and I were on a hiking tour in Ireland. It's called the Dingle Way. It's incredible hiking tour, and it was her 40th birthday, and so most of our vacations, unfortunately, are always around like where I'm traveling to for work, and this was one of those where it was like no work, right? Like this is purely like just us on vacation. And we were hiking along this route, and it's, you're going from village to village. We're hiking, 20 plus kilometers per day for a week, right? And we're in the middle of this hike, and my wife saw a lady in the shoes, and she said, "Oh, nice shoes," like complimenting it. And the lady immediately turns and goes, "These are my favorite. They're zero drop." And started like pitching us all the benefits to it. And we just sat there like laughing. And after, I'm telling you, my wife after 20 minutes was like, "Yeah, we're wearing them too. And by the way, my husband started the brand." And this woman just went white. Was like, "Oh my God," selfies, pictures. It was a little awkward.
You're probably almost about to offer a job or something
I know,
like that.
I was like, what is going on? So that was pretty fun, just being out in a little tiny dinky town on the trails out in Ireland and having that experience. It's just comical, but I get to see them all around the world. I mean, it's another experience. I was in China and we were doing a trail race, and it was a vertical K, which was fun. And the amount of people wearing Ultras out, like with the Great Wall of China not far from us, like out in the middle of the sticks in China, and having literally like 100 people seeing them wear Ultras was just like this. Wow, it's like I'm just a young guy from Utah, and to see that that I had that impact, it's pretty humbling and pretty special.
So you still have those moments where you're just like, you're traveling somewhere, you see it, and you're like, "Oh wow, that's really cool."
Yeah, totally.
Oh, that's amazing. Was there an aha moment? Like, obviously, like you said before, he was 3 guys in a basement in Utah. Was there a moment sort of in the first couple of years that was like, okay, we're making something big here. This is the real deal?
Yeah, I actually get asked this question a lot, and I always have the same answer. So I tell the story pretty frequently, actually. And I was running Wasatch 100, and it's a 100-mile race in Utah. It's one of the first 100-milers in the world. I think it's the 3rd or 4th oldest 100-miler in the entire world, and it's a gnarly, rocky, technical race. And I'd run it a few years earlier and gotten just terrible blisters and just not a great experience. And the first ever prototype of the Lone Peak showed up, a prototype that I'd literally mortgaged my dad's house for. Okay, I had a 6-month-old baby, and my wife. We had no insurance, we had no income, we had just mortgaged our house. Like the whole entrepreneur burn the boats. Like we were all in on this, and we had Wasatch 100 that showed up 2 weeks after the first Lone Peak, the only prototype that existed. And I was able to run Wasatch 100 in the first and only Lone Peak to exist. And, if you've run those long races, now you have, right? You've done some of those longer races?
I've done some longer races, yeah.
The night sucks, right? The night's just miserable. You're just looking at headlamp for hours. And I'm not quite fast enough to finish in under 24 hours. And so right there at mile 97 with 5K left, the first glimmer of light hit the mountaintop. And I had this just emotional, completely overpowered my entire body, my soul, my mind. I'm not even religious, right? And this had this crazy experience where I went from believing and hoping that Ultra was going to work to just knowing. I've never, ever had a single doubt about Ultra's ability and our knowledge that we were going to be a major shoe brand in that moment. And again, at the time, mortgaged my dad's house. We had no investors seriously considering us. We were completely broke. All of those things happened, and yet I had this moment of clarity that was one of the most impactful moments of my life. That I'll never forget that feeling. And that knowledge that captured my entire body right there at mile 97 of Wasatch 100.
That's the true runner's high, I guess.
It was. I mean, this was like the runner's high of runner's highs. I don't know how to describe it, but it was pretty powerful, and it was a really special experience for me.
No, that's awesome, man. Well, again, I appreciate you joining us today on the podcast. This has been great, and it's been really cool to kind of hear and understand your story and just kind of get a little bit of knowledge of the face behind the brand and what Ultra is all about.
Yeah, my pleasure. And again, thank you. I look at the growth that we're experiencing, and I think Canada totally personifies that. As we're growing, we're getting more people out on the trails and out on the road, and we're getting them healthier, and exciting time to be in the industry.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Another huge thanks again to Brian for contributing to this week's episode. You can follow his journey on Instagram at Brian_Altra and learn more about Altra's innovative host of shoe options at altrarunning.com. That's ALTRA running.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Shakeout Podcast. We've got a great slate of episodes coming your way this summer, so make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a thing. As always, I'm your host, John Gay, saying thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon for your next Shakeout.